caught. But we'll get started, and then obviously we have the recording, and we'll be able to include you in that group. And Herbert can take full advantage, as will I, of your education on the opportunities in Southern Delaware to visit and learn about, and we'll go from there. So, Scott Thomas, thank you for joining us this morning. Scott comes to us from Southern Delaware Tourism Association, and he's the executive director there. He is going to be helping us to understand some of the opportunities that we have in Southern Delaware, places to visit, including obviously the beaches, the beach communities along the way. And so we will turn it over to Scott to get started on our monthly Hangouts.
Great, thanks, Kevin, and thanks everybody for reaching out. Let me, just help you walk around Sussex County in Southern Delaware today. Herbert, thank you. I think I heard you say is this your second summer here in Delaware, or going on your third?
Yes, second summer.
Okay, great. So thanks for having me today. I love doing this. I've done similar presentations like this. We go around to travel shows in the Mid-Atlantic, and there's little mini theaters, people just wanting to get a little more information about some of the hidden gems to travel to, and so anyway, thank you. And I also wanted to say, feel free, all of you. I don't know if you do the Zoom hand raising or just unmute yourselves and ask a question as I go through this at any time. I'm happy to do it in real time. You don't have to wait to the end. You may forget, or so it's easy, and I just want to keep it casual. So thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
Sure. So you can see here in this intro slide, it's kind of our mantra at Southern Delaware Tourism. We always say, beaches are just the beginning. I wanted to share my personal story with you, and I think I was telling Liz and some others earlier that I grew up every summer of my life in the Dewey Beach area of Delaware, so it kind of got in my blood early. And then when I kind of entered the workforce, went to University of Maryland, College Park. And then once I started entering the workforce, I lived in various spots around Maryland and the DC area, and I was working in the telecommunications area, in the telecommunications industry, and that's when I started getting into communications and marketing. Event marketing in particular. So it started I loved it because I was in my 20s and I was able to travel around everywhere, mostly domestic, but then internationally. So I really got to see a lot, and it was so educational, as all travel is, and just really had the pleasure of working with so many good people, and just saw a lot of great places. And then my wife's a Milford girl, by the way. Actually grew up in Slaughter Beach. If you ever saw, we'll talk a little about it. So she's really she's certainly more native than I am to Southern Delaware, but like I said, it's more home to me than any other place. The reason I tell you about that journey of mine is because it became my goal, where I wanted to get back here. Like a lot of kids when they're here, there's still to this day, there's not and it'll be interesting because of what post-COVID will bring, but the metropolitan and the job opportunities that kind of take kids away from this, everybody kind of has to leave for a while, including myself. But I always wanted to get back here. It was like a special spot, and the more I traveled, the more I realized how special it was, and I don't know, maybe it's just the vibe here or whatever. And so, long story short, we were able to get back here for good in 2003. So I was happy because I made it back here before I was 80. That was my goal. I wanted to get back. So I was like, yeah, that was a huge check mark. And so that's a blessing. But beyond that, I landed in this position. I started working for a local hotel in Lewes, Delaware. That's what got me into the tourism aspect of tourism marketing, and it eventually got me into my position here in Southern Delaware Tourism. So not only do I get to be back here and living full time, but I'm able to help promote it as a destination. And to me, that's like icing on the cake. So I feel very fortunate that, it's kind of like to me, it's such a privilege to be able to help do that. So opportunities like today and what I'm going to talk about, I mean, I love talking about the area here. I learned things. I've been in this position for 13 years, and I'm still learning new things every single day. It's a big county, but I figured today we can kind of do a virtual walkthrough. I certainly can't talk about everything, but I just want to sprinkle around maybe some ideas that some of you will have maybe next time you're, throughout traveling down here to Sussex County, whether you have a favorite go-to spot, maybe looking for some side trip ideas. So that's what I hope to do with this session today, is to kind of shed more light and maybe provoke more and more questions, and, stay connected with you all as we, as time marches on here. So thanks. So again, beaches are just the beginning. We're known for our beaches. That's why we say beaches are just the beginning. When I tell this, I do classes at Del Tech, and I always talk about what we have here and what we like to promote. And what I always tell is that we have, not only do we have beaches, but we have 5-star clean beaches. People are like, what does that really mean? If you say you have 5-star beaches, there's an organization called the U.S. Natural Defense Council. When they're a federal body, what they do is they test ocean water quality. They do it like every 3 years, maybe every 3 or 4 years. And Delaware's beaches, primarily, I think it's Dewey Beach, Rehoboth Beach, Bethany Beach, they all tested high quality, like 5 stars out of 5 stars, which really ranked Delaware, like if not the cleanest ocean water quality, maybe it's right up there. I think it was number 1 out of 30 coastal states, which is a lot of people are like, really? And it's true, because this is scientifically tested. State of Delaware invests a lot of money in its beach infrastructure, with replenishment programs. It's matching it. I mean, it really is our economic engine and one of the pillars down here with our tourism economy. It's what draws people. And then from here, I always say it's like the beaches are like a porter call. You have it's like a cruise ship, I should say, because you're here in the resort area, but then when you look around Sussex County, you start to discover all these port of call spots where you can kind of explore. So we're known for our 5-star beaches. We have 25 miles of Atlantic coastline from Lewes, Delaware, down to Fenwick Island, which borders Ocean City, Maryland, and the Maryland border. We are known for being very pet friendly. It seems to be really popular now. There's a lot of people coming down traveling with their pets, their dogs. A lot of our hotels now and accommodations, even restaurants with their outdoor patios, they're allowing people with their pets. It's really become really important to a lot of our travelers, because remember, people we're primarily a drive-to destination. Whether you're coming from other parts of Delaware, most people are driving down from Pennsylvania, from the DC metro area, a lot of northern New Jersey, New Yorkers more and more now all the time. We're getting a lot of people from Connecticut, but they're driving here. Our season gets extended all the time. Our highest visitation months are April through November now, spiking in the summertime. But we're known for being friendly. We're kind of known, again, getting back to kind of our coastline. It's where the Delaware Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean. It's Cape Henlopen State Park is a big draw down here because of all the activities. I'll talk a little bit more about that now, but this is some of the views that you see along the Cape Henlopen area here. You can see the East End Lighthouse there. You also see that from one of the new restaurant, Grand on the Rocks, that I mentioned earlier, which I can talk about. But I can't stress this enough, because we poll our visitors every year. They fill out surveys. We have contests and things like that. You see our website at the bottom of all these slides. Visit southerndelaware.com. You can take a survey. You can win a free trip here, but you have to answer a series of questions. And one of the things, certainly that we ask our visitors is, what is it that keeps you coming back? Why do you keep choosing our area over other, other locations? And, I think small towns is a big one, because we're not really built up like a Myrtle Beach or like an Ocean City, Maryland. You get the small town vibe. We're a collection of small towns. I didn't coin this, or our office didn't coin it, but I don't know who did, but they were kind of coined the 25 jewels of Sussex County, with each jewel being a town. So we are a collection of small towns, all proximal, easy to drive to one another. And they all have really different personalities when you go from town to town. I think the charm kind of resonates when you get around, but they all have different personalities. I think people enjoy that because, where you go to a place like Lewes, you feel like you're in Nantucket or up in New England. You don't even feel like you're in the Mid-Atlantic, but yet 7 miles, you go down to the Rehoboth Beach boardwalk, and then all of a sudden you're in a classic Mid-Atlantic beach town. So it's got a whole different, scene going on. And then you can go inland to a place like Georgetown, Milton, which we talked about earlier on the call. And I'll take you through some of these towns throughout this session, but they're all different personalities, walkable, very friendly merchants. I think a lot of people that they enjoy being here, and that's kind of what resonates. I think people say that they come from places and locations where you're just not going to get a lot of eye contact. And I think that's prevalent in a lot of states, especially on the East Coast. But you get here, it's just kind of like things kind of slow down a little bit. And that's what people really enjoy. And I think you just, you kind of feel a little farther away than where you traveled from. And I think that's that's something we try to talk about all the time, and really how it makes you feel once you get here and once you cross that bridge.
Where was that? Was that Milton?
This is 2nd Street in downtown Lewes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And what this was taken, you can kind of see some of those cars in the middle. I think that might have been during the British motor car rally that they have every spring. And So it's one of the vibrant spots of Lewes. It's the commercial district of Lewes, and just a block over is where you have the canal, and then the Lewes Beach area is not too much farther to the east from here. So as I said, everything's walkable.
Scott, I love the point you made about when you're there, you feel like you're much farther away than you are. You really do feel like you're in a completely different place, and it's easy to sort of let go of what you were worrying about coming in, and let it stay, back where you were, and really enjoy the environment, slow down a little bit. It's a nice place to be able to take a little bit of a break, or take a long break if you can. And it doesn't feel, exactly. But it doesn't feel like you're as close as you are. And so I think that's why people go as frequently as they do, is that it's a great way to kind of break off from the craziness that we live in.
Especially this year right now. And again, we feel like, we're doing, so there's more of a demand ever than drive to, destinations. It's always played in our favor because of the proximity. I think we're like, I want to say we're within a 4-hour drive from about 30% of the US population. I mean, that's a lot of people. When you think about, you think about New York, Philadelphia, DC, a lot of population, concentration hotbeds there. So that's always really played well for us because it's the proximity. But I think Kevin, we can't stress that enough, because again, it's that plus how you do feel farther, and it's almost like a blessing and a curse because, I know like Delaware's Prosperity Partnership Group talks about this a lot too. It's the farther south you get in Delaware, the more detached you are from that I-95 corridor. And I think culturally and, economically, it's always been a big kind of it's been like an outlier, where it's transportation, it's been a little harder to access. Well, that can be a blessing because again, you don't have all that, that concentrated, it's kind of more of more of a retreat feel from all that. But I think it's interesting now as times keep on going, and I think as COVID's been almost accelerated the clock here with people working and communicating and forcing us to do so many things differently now. I think that whole remote working and things like that, it's really going to start to give people more flexibility and freedom to again, a lot like what Connect Delaware, what you all are, helping those worth coming here is saying, like, look, if you can do it anywhere, why not do it in Delaware? And better yet, why not do it in a place that makes you feel like this, where you can really feel like you have a high quality of life and you have all these great outlets, whether they're outdoors or some of the other ones that I'll talk about. So anyway, sorry to get all tangential on you all, but I talk a lot, so I'll try to steer back to it. But I really appreciate the comments. So keep interjecting. It helps me because maybe like I said, I like to expand on certain points. The other thing we're really getting known for is our food. Southern Delaware becoming the culinary coast. We've trademarked the term culinary coast. No other coastline on the planet can use it now, because of the movement of these rock star chefs, these rock star farmers. I mean, think about it. I'm talking tourism, which is one of the two leading industries here in Sussex County. And what's the other one? Anyone? Sorry.
Agriculture.
You got it. You nailed it.
Yep.
Agriculture, big. So this just merges the two. This is a global thing. It's been happening for years now, but in Sussex County, we've really taken advantage of it because of the agrarian nature of so much of the county, the farmscapes here, and like I said, it's not just the rock star chefs, it's the farmers. They're all working together, and then you have our visitors. They're saying that we had no idea. I would say it's the density and diversity of selection here. I mean, you pick it. You can go from boardwalk fries, pizza, whatever, all the classics, and your seafood, but then you have all this Mediterranean. You have pick and choose. You have places coming in here. These chefs coming in from all these locations we're talking about. They're setting up shop here, and doing some amazing things. And they're very omnipresent too. I think it's like you see the owner or the chef, I mean, that they come out. They're at farmers markets here, and that's very special to those who visit and frequent. It's all part of it, and to see that, I think it's true here. So we're really more and more becoming known as the culinary coast, Delaware's culinary coast, and Mid-Atlantic's culinary coast. So we're really here at our office, we're really trying to raise that flag a lot now too, and showing these stories of our chefs and these eating outlets. So there's more and more food tours now. You may have heard of it, but it's always right up there with TripAdvisor and things to do here around is Eating Rehoboth walking food tours. It's kind of a neat way to sample a lot of these selections, and you also learn about some of the history as you're walking around with some of the guides. They're actually partnering with the Jolly Trolley now to mobilize more of these tours. So that's evolving as well. Ways to do it. Next slide is something that Liz had brought up earlier in the call. This is a photograph of the Big Chill Beach Club, which is situated, as you can see, by the Indian River Inlet Bridge in the background on the Delaware State Seashore Park lands. It's a great spot. The Indian River Inlet, I mean, I always liked it a lot because I like to surf, and I go to the north side, and it's just a tremendous surfing beach. Again, when I said earlier, like, people say, oh, that's Delaware. You show videos of like on a good day, people surfing. It looks like Hawaii, and people just don't believe it's Delaware. But this location, it really takes advantage of the view. You can kind of see the sunset in the background. Unfortunately, that what you see in the middle here, it's closed. Maybe there was high winds that day or whatever, but that's the umbrella that actually opens up to shade the area, like when the sun's up. So it's shaded up there. Some parts aren't shaded, but that's one of the new additions to our many popular restaurants. The other one, which I don't have a photo of, is we mentioned it earlier before Herbert joined us, is the Grain on the Rocks, which is at the Lewes Ferry Terminal, which has a great scenery of the Delaware Bay and lighthouses and the ferry when it comes in. And it has a really nice outdoor patio for outdoor dining. Fantastic food as well. We're also known, obviously, statewide for our tax-free shopping. Again, as I said, we can't just say, come to our beaches. Yeah, come to our beaches, come to our 5-star beaches, our clean beaches, right? We have very clean beaches. Well, you're not only going to shop in Delaware, you're going to shop here tax-free. And the longer you stay in Delaware, if you've lived in Delaware most of your life, you've kind of come accustomed to it, but it's still a big deal when people realize, like, wait a minute, it's tax-free. I mean, it still brings in a lot of groups, whether they're shopping for, in the winter holidays, back to school shopping, places like Tanger outlets. They're known as the Mile of Style here in Rehoboth. When you come in on Coastal Highway, you pass 3 outlet centers. So you have that coupled with downtown boutique shopping, whether it's in Lewes, Rehoboth Beach, Georgetown, Milton, Bethany Beach, pick your town, which we'll see. It's a really nice complement to, and I've even gone into antiquing if that's your thing, but all these things really playing well to really getting yourself lost into the whole shopping experience here. So you kind of see one of the outlet centers on the left-hand side of this slide. On the right-hand side is Penny Lane, which is downtown Rehoboth, which is one of the many cool spots to walk through. It kind of resembles Europe when you walk through there, one of the alleyways, and it's just a really, really neat design. And Delaware, big shopping destination, starting with, being tax-free. So as I said earlier, at this part, this is kind of where I kind of wanted to dive into some various towns around the county and maybe talk about some of the popular activities and things to do when you're there. So why not start with the first town in the first state, right? Lewes, Delaware. Everybody know, right? Lewes is the first town in the first state. That's a big claim. They've embraced that. They're like a poster child for heritage tourism. They really live and breathe it. And it hasn't always been that way. Even as recent as, say, the 1960s, early 70s, Lewes wasn't that popular of a destination, mainly because you still had these fish plants that were kind of closing shop, all these med-hating places, and it kind of smelled like fish, and it just wasn't, very, it was like a very salty town. It was like, you call it authentic, whatever, but it really wasn't quite near the destination it is when you walk into downtown Lewes today. And that's because it's been a result of a collective effort between, town leadership, the businesses there, the chamber. They've really said, look, let's really embrace our history of being the first town in the first state. Let's tell our story. So if history is your thing, there's a lot of great places to learn about it, and especially in the fall and the fall months when it seems to be when it's really popular. People are coming here just to explore new places, to hear the stories. So what you see on the bottom left is the Zwanendale Museum, which is Dutch for Valley of the Swans. It's run by the state. It really talks about, it really showcases a lot of the Dutch history. If it wasn't for Lewes, Delaware probably wouldn't even be a state. We'd be part of Maryland or Pennsylvania right now. I don't know if any of you know that whole story. If you don't, but I could talk about that for an hour, but I won't. But long story short, it was a court battle between the Calverts of Maryland, the William Penn of Pennsylvania, because the 3 counties of Delaware were the lower 3 counties of Pennsylvania for during that time period. And long story short, Pennsylvania wanted Delaware, Maryland wanted Delaware, and then neither one of them could have it because it was determined in 1631 that there was a Dutch whaling colony that set up camp in Lewes, and that kind of separated Delaware from either one of them, and it was really allowed Delaware to become sovereign, become one of the first colonies, and again, eventually being the first state to ratify the Constitution. So I bring all this up because there's a lot of folks that can tell that story a lot better than I just did. And they have really cool tours around Lewes, whether it's by land, by sea. You see the lower right hand picture there. It's a picture of the one of the tours on the Cape water tours and taxis. I actually just went out on one with my nephews last week. It's fantastic. You can do things from guided tours. You can even just go out for dinner, sunset cruises. You can bring your own food and drink on board. And then they sail around, you motor around the lighthouses. You see a fantastic sunset. You go into the Canal of Lewes. It's such a great way to spend, the twilight time and wind down the day and see. So a great outlet. They're building a new dock in downtown Rehoboth right now behind the museum, which is going to be big for us because it'll allow you to connect by water in a safe manner to get off in downtown Rehoboth, as well as Lewes, which already has that. So you won't even have to get out on Route 1 and drive back and forth pretty soon. You'll be able to take a water taxi or shuttle. So that's going to be a big deal for our area. So I'm really excited to, we're on the cusp of all that right now. So a lot of getting back to our Dutch roots of this water transportation and the canal culture. So, these are really neat things to do when you're there. Yes.
Just clarification. So when I was there recently, I noticed that there's a bike trail that now connects Lewes and Rehoboth, which is really cool. So you're saying there's going to be a water taxi that connects Lewes and Rehoboth?
There's going to be access. There's going to be canal access in Rehoboth Beach right now, which ultimately will lead to more water transportation by water taxis, depending on who that provider is going to be. So we're really excited that that's going to be more of a, like I said, a transportation outlet. Now it'll be an attraction itself because you see fantastic scenery between the two. But it'll also allow people to sample restaurants, whether you're staying in Rehoboth or Lewes, but you'll get like the best of both of those towns by way of the water now, and never having to step foot in your car or go out and that. So that's going to be really, I think, to me, in my opinion, a game changer in years.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I hope they have a lot of taxis because I think it would be very, very popular.
Yeah, I think demand will really start to drive that. So, and I think our towns are excited, especially the city of Rehoboth Beach now, which is kind of, putting in that project with some partners that are making it happen right now. And thanks for bringing up the bike trail, Liz. I am gonna talk about that because that's a tremendous attraction right now. I mean, people are actually moving here because of that bike trail. So Lewes, it's, to me, if those of you haven't been to Lewes, it really is. You feel like you're in New England. It's a seaside town. I would say it's more of a seaside town than beach town, even though it does have a great beach, and it's safe for small children because it's a bay beach. So it doesn't have big waves. It's easy accessible. There's a parking lot right there. And if you want the ocean, you can go to Cape Henlopen State Park, which is right around the bend, which I showed you earlier, which has bay beaches as well as ocean beaches, where you get the best of both of those worlds. So a lot of great choices there. And of course, there's some great hotels and inns, some very charming places to stay, all pedestrian walking, there. So canal attractions, dining and shopping. So before I move on, are there any more questions on Lewes? Okay. So one of the things they came out with is a Maritime History Trail. So it's basically just highlighting some of the attractions that again are part of these stories that I'm talking about. I'm not going to dive too far into it, but there is a trail you can follow along. It can be self-guided. The Lewes Historical Society, if you go to if you can see, they have tour schedules posted. They have trolley tours that are very popular, and some really nice, just a lot of fun interpreters who do a nice job. Talk about the stories of 1812. There's a Cannonball House where one of the cannonballs, Lewes was assaulted by by the British during the War of 1812, in which one of the cannonballs hit one of the houses that's known as Cannonball House now. It's known as the Lewes Historical Society. Well, it's still there today, and it's an attraction. It's one of the museums there. But just kind of some neat salty stories you'll find in Lewes throughout that trail.
Scott, is any of that, are there any podcasts that sort of accompany that trail or no?
I'm not aware of any, and I'm not saying there aren't, but I think it's something, again, I think to find out more about it, I would certainly go to the Lewes Historical Society. They're a tremendous resource and can certainly could answer that and could maybe provide more options on how to experience that trail.
Sure, that'd be great. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And Cape Henlopen State Park, it's just, what's cool about Cape Henlopen State Park, it's connectable. It's part of the Gordon's Pond Trail, that bike trail and hiking trail that Liz mentioned. And there's more trails within it, but there's just a lot going on there, a lot of cool things going on there, just nature-wise. When you go out to places like Herring Point, which is a spot on the southern end of the park there, you don't really feel like you're on the East Coast at all. You actually feel like you're on the West Coast. It's very reminiscent of California's coastline because you're looking down on the beaches. It's mainly because of the Great Dune that really came about as part of the U.S. effort in World War II when they created Fort Miles there at Cape Henlopen State Park. It was before it was a state park, but it was actually the military had it because as the U.S. entered World War II, in an effort to protect our coastline, they set up what you see on the bottom right, what are known as, some people when I go on the show, they say, oh, you have lighthouses. Like, well, not really lighthouses, they're fire towers. And then they were brought up by the Department of Defense to really keep guard for German and Japanese ships, U-boats, submarines. And till this day, they're one of the signatures of our coastlines. The majority of those fire towers are on Delaware's coastline. You see them when you come down here. New Jersey, I believe, has 3 or 4. I should know that. I think maybe it's 4, but Delaware has 7. And you start seeing them in Lewes, and they extend as far down to Fenwick Island. So I always like to say, they're one of our signatures, and some of them have been restored. And one of the ones that's been restored is in Cape Henlopen State Park, where you can actually climb it and go up to the top there, and just have this incredible view, of the ocean, of the bay, and of the park. It's really neat. It's a big attraction. Fort Miles is a big attraction. They've done just incredible work into kind of really bringing it back to its roots and building it up, because it fell into disrepair decades ago, and it's been this tremendous effort to get it back. They have this gun park now. They actually just acquired a gun and artifact from the Arizona, U.S. Arizona, where they certainly were the United States entry into World War II. So that kind of started, and it's kind of bookended by a gun that came from the USS Missouri that came here about 6 years ago, where the Japanese did the formal surrender when World War II ended. So they actually had some bookend place of World War II. So it's a big attraction for military groups that come here for reunions. They have an event center there now where people do. It's popular with weddings that overlooks this fantastic Atlantic backdrop now on this great dune. So there's a lot going on there for visitors, regardless of what you're interested in, whether you're into hiking, biking, history, birding, whatever it may be, or just sunbathing. You can find a lot of it just at this one park here. So it's very popular.
I went to Herring's Point a couple of weeks ago for the
first
first
time.
time. In fact, it's been probably since the late 70s that I've been to Cape Henlopen State Park.
Oh, so you saw a big time lapse there.
Yeah, I mean, I just could not believe the extent of that park.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned about California, because from Herring's Point, I looked to my left and I saw that scene you have in the top left corner, and I
Exactly. Yeah.
immediately thought California.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's funny because perspectives are off. You think the dune's bigger than it is, and because of the hills and valleys, it looks exactly like a Western coast scene. But then you look to your right and you see Rehoboth far off in the distance. It's
Yep.
very, very cool. It is a cool place for people to exercise. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Herring Point's, it's when I have, whether I have friends or relatives that visit, and one of the things I'm going to do on my must list is it's going to hit that trail and do it on bikes. And that's always a stop off point, is Herring Point. If it's like, cause I'm coming up from the south. So if you're taking the Gordon's Pond Trail, you go right by, it dumps you right into where Herring Point is at Cape Henlopen State Park. So it's a great stop off point just to kind of sit, have water or whatever, and sit there and look at the scenery. You can walk down to the beach, get wet if you want, but it really is, it's a neat spot. And I think aside from maybe Maine's rocky coastline, it's really the only spot on the East Coast where you are elevated like that. So it is kind of unique.
Very
in that.
cool.
Yeah. There is one of our vineyards is close by to Lewes, just outside of Lewes. You pass it when you come in to the Five Points areas. It's in Five Points is kind of where you kind of get into like that coast. You come across the Nassau Bridge. It's kind of like your entry into the resort area when you're coming down Route 1, traveling from northern parts of the state. You get to Nassau Bridge, and just to the right is Nassau Valley Vineyards. Peggy Raley is the proprietor there. She's one of our many storytellers, great storytellers we have here in Sussex County, where she entertains a lot of groups there. She tells the history of wine, and she has a museum there. They have award-winning wines. They have a great sampling room. You can go out. So again, it's a great kind of, like I said, side trip. Do it at your own pace, or if you have a group of people that you're traveling with, you can pre-schedule something with Peggy. She's really makes it fun there. So it's one of our wineries. And then heading down to our next town, Rehoboth Beach. This is probably certainly the hub of our visitation, especially here in the summer. Rehoboth Beach started as a Methodist camp, with a railroad back, before it was as built up as it is now, and it really became, because again, the proximity I talk about to all these metropolitan locations. Well, to Washington, D.C., it really became a go-to summer destination for a lot of Washingtonians, and therefore it really became known as the nation's summer capital. And that's kind of sticks to this day. That's kind of their slogan. So, I mean, the best way really, if you haven't been to Rehoboth, I mean, the best way to describe Rehoboth is it really is your quintessential beach town. Some of the things that really strike you when you get there is the boardwalk. They have a mile-long boardwalk with family amusements, great eatery outlets and restaurant shopping. It's a great place to get lost. I think what keeps people intrigued and coming back, it's and you get this a lot too, like in New Jersey and those boardwalk towns. It's the nostalgia. It reigns supreme with the nostalgia, and you go to places like Funland Amusements on the boardwalk, which is being run by the same family since the early 60s, where they haven't really raised ticket prices at all, and it's like stuck in time. I mean, not every, there have been changes, but some things you're like are always kind of tried and true, and that's what you see when you come to Rehoboth. And it's like, whether it's like Grotto Pizza, people are like, oh, I got to get my slice of Grotto Pizza, or I got to get my thrash. I want to go take my kids to Funland or my grandkids to Funland, and they're sitting on the same, fire engines or boat rides that I was in as a kid. So what it all does is it makes you feel that age again, and you do this, and it's just like, it's so cool when you can do that, and you can, whether with your friends or so it's such a great stage to do that, to experience that, and it's just a very well kept, like I said, beach town to walk around. A lot of art. There's it's the capital of our culinary coast. It's just such a high density and diversity of restaurants now. I think they just added an Indian restaurant. So there are more and more coming in all the time. Fierce competition, which means that the quality of product's going to be really good if you're going out to dine, because if you're not, you're just not going to survive in a place like the Culinary, because again, there's just too many options right now. So that's a good thing for us, and those who like to eat and sample things, because, and again, you can see the one food tour. There's a picture of that. It's starting there at the Belmore Inn, which is one of our many great places to stay. Again, you park your car, you don't have to get back in your car again, so you can walk around the county. And again, as I said, in Lewes, there's more and more multimodal options, whether it's by bike or hopefully pretty soon now by water shuttle, where you can just get around more easily. And that's what we want down here, because again, we know that there's constraints with summer parking and congestion on the highways. I mean, yeah, but that's the good part of it, is people really, they're coming here and they want to come here. But once you're here, the more options that we can provide, the more entertaining ways to get around. That's what it's all about. And I think you're getting more of that. So multimodal stuff, whether you're hopping on the Jolly Trolley, taking Dart Transit, or just getting on your bike or renting a bike, there's so many options to do that.
That's a great point, Scott. I think it also lends to that feeling of being away. And I think I got to think that once you get in the car, at least for myself personally, and once you get back in that car, that's it's almost like getting in an office many times. And so it kind of takes away from the vacation experience and the stress of driving and parking and all those things.
Absolutely.
So to eliminate those, I think keeps that feeling, right, that you're away, you're removed from the usual grind of home, and I think it kind of gives it that sort of whimsical feeling of being away, having opportunities to do a lot of things in a very short range of geography, and the amount of opportunities that are there. It was funny when you were covering part of Rehoboth before, I was thinking to myself, it's sort of amusing that each beach community has a lot of the qualities of Delaware, but is broken down into a smaller sort of subset without the quote unquote kind of crazy of 95 and the stress that can kind of bring into it, right? So
right.
It's interesting that they're sort of structured almost like children off of the bigger 95 picture, although they would probably be the parents based on history.
Right.
But it is kind of funny, the connection, how they were built.
Yep. So that leads to, again, another popular activity here, which Liz had mentioned. It's the Scenic Fun Cycling, and I say Scenic Fun Cycling because, again, we do have our share of cycling events like other parts of Delaware have. I think we have the Broad Creek Bike and Brew. We have the Quiet Resorts. The Bethany Fenwick has their Ocean to Bay bike tour, which really brings in conditioned seasoned cyclists to do all these events, and we are great because Delaware's flat, right? I mean, we're a great cycling destination. We're I think number 3 on the east of the Mississippi as far as bike friendly states. That we're always kind of up the top of the list somewhere. But I always like to remind visitors here that it's the leisure cycling is insane here as far as what we've kind of put together with the trails and what the state's invested into the trail system, through these parks. And, we refer to it as kind of the bike loop, starting one of the popular segments, among others, is that bike loop that kind of connects Rehoboth Beach with Lewes. So you can take the Gordon's Pond Trail, which takes you through you can start on the Rehoboth side at Gordon's Pond Park, which is part of Cape Elms, but you can access it north of Rehoboth. And really get great views of a salt marsh there and tremendous wildlife. You see the fire towers there, so it's that nature, it's the history, but it's just great riding around and taking that all in, and then you can go have lunch in Lewes and take a break, and then get back on your bike, come back down to Rehoboth on the Junction Breakwater Trail, which kind of takes you through more shaded areas, more woody scenery, and ultimately you encounter things like breweries on the trail. Like Revelation has it. It's easier to bike there than it is to drive there. You just park your bike and you can go to this brewery. You can go to you can head back into downtown Rehoboth, and so it's just. I guess my point is you can take as many stops as you'd like Herring Point, to take in the scenery, or to go have lunch in Lewes or Rehoboth or vice versa. But the trail is such a great connection and way to do it, because you can time it out for a full day, a half day, however much time you have. And you can bring your own bike. There's plenty of places to rent a bike to do it. But I can't recommend this enough. Because as you heard me say earlier, I always put it on my must-do list if I have someone that's staying with me, whether it's a friend or family member, coming here to stay. So we have a blast doing this. So just to the south of Rehoboth is Dewey Beach, and you heard me say this earlier. This is kind of where I spent a lot of my childhood, but to this day, it's just. And again, another special spot. I guess Dewey, it kind of starts, our coastline, kind of our barrier island. It's really where you start to really get cognizant of the inland bays and the bay to the west, this tremendous Atlantic coastline to the east. So as you kind of go, depending on where you're staying in Dewey, where you're frequenting, everything else, it's almost like a Key West feel, where you can see the sunrise and sunset, and it's just very water friendly, welcoming, just fun place to walk around. And it's not all bars, it certainly is a fun place to go and to go out for its nightlife. But as you can see on the slide, Dewey's kind of growing up like we all grow up, and it gets more multi-generational. So you have people like myself and others who might have met their significant other in a place like Dewey Beach. Well, they're coming back with their kids now, or their grandkids, and they're like, oh, what's so whether they're skimboarding camps, which, by the way, Dewey is the East Coast skimboarding capital. Anybody who doesn't know what skimboarding is, it's a sport that kind of combines surfing and skateboarding. It's close in. It's a great sport to watch. People from all over the world come to Dewey to skim, as you can see up there to the left. And every August there's a Summer Vibes Festival that hosts them. There's camps that kids love. They come here. So, and their parents love it too, because they know that they're going to be with safe instruction, and like, okay, we can go do our thing now and come back. So there's this whole kind of beach culture going on, in Dewey, whether it's skimboarding, just hanging out. And then you can see some other cool entertainment outlets every Monday now. In the summertime, there's movies on the beach that's produced by the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, everything now is doing with social distance in mind. So it's CDC compliant. You see bonfire. These photographs weren't necessarily taken this year, but they're certainly spacing out and doing it. But bonfire Wednesdays, where everybody's roasting marshmallows, and it's so there's really cool communal things going on. Even in this age of social distancing, there's some really fun, safe things to do. The scene's just really cool, because I guess the best way for me to personally describe it, because I try to do this all the time, is I like to go down there late in the day when it's not so hot, and just walk around, and it's just anytime. It's just so much fun to go for a walk down there, and whether you're going for this activity or not. So I guess that's the kind of like I don't know if I'm doing it justice or not, but that's probably the best way I can kind of describe Dewey. So is there any questions on Dewey?
I think that was a pretty good covering. I did not realize it's the skimboard capital of the world. That's pretty neat to know.
The East Coast skimboarding, because there's a West Coast, like a lot of things, there's the West Coast, East Coast thing going on. Laguna Beach, California is the West Coast capital. That was kind of the sports birthplace. And the reason being is because, like Dewey, there's a shore break where the waves are breaking closer to shore than more like if you're surfing farther out, which is very conducive for high level, skimboarding and maneuvers and things like that. So and all that started, it really got popular, really started exploding in the 80s in Dewey, and it's really, the legacy's continued, and it's great. We have competitors come in from everywhere, from Brazil and all kinds of places. They come to Dewey every summer to compete. And what once was a weekend is stretched out to a week now, where they've combined paddle boarding, skateboarding, and all other activities within this one, under the umbrella of this one festival. So it's really neat to see it evolve that way.
Yeah. Scott, are you seeing an uptick in people visiting Delaware beaches based on the opportunity to be able to kind of explore something? I know we're hearing a lot about state parks being higher in terms of occupancy. Delaware beaches, and I would imagine bikes as well, would be a pretty big increase. Are you seeing that?
You're correct. In fact, I think we were checking with some of our bike shop merchants, those who do a lot of the rentals in towns like Rehoboth and Lewes, and because we're trying to explore some feasibilities for some of these hotel packages that we're working on, and a lot of them is like, we have such a high demand for bikes, we don't know if we can get them to the hotel in time. But so it's kind of reinforcing your point, where there's such a high demand for that. Again, more so than ever, people want to be outside. They want to be in open spaces like these trails we're talking about, on the water, on a kayak, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And it's one of the things that we're reminding and promoting more than ever right now here in Southern Delaware, with kind of their whole rediscovery. Me and my colleagues throughout the state promoting, whether they're in the other counties or the state tourism office, we're all really going up to rediscover and, come down and really, again, things that maybe you always thought about doing, but again, things that maybe COVID is really kind of jump starting you to do now. Like let's really try it. But we're lucky because we have so many outlets for that, where it's not all congested and it's not all indoor, and we're a primary outdoor destination anyway year round. So
yeah, we really do have the best of almost all worlds in terms of being able to do things and
so
staying.
So it's very highly desired right now. And as you head south out of Dewey Beach toward, driving down Coastal Highway, one of my favorite stretches of land, ever. And I try to drive it as much as I can, or bike it, or it is kind of that stretch between Dewey Beach and Bethany Beach. It's all protected by the state and state park lands. And it's just that thin strip. It's that barrier island where you can see the bay. If you're driving south, you can see the bay to your right. You can see the dunes to the ocean on your left. And then when you cross that bridge, the Indian River Inlet Bridge, you can see them both. And right before you get to the bridge on the left is the Indian River Life Saving Station, which more and more people are visiting now. It's one of those things where, again, another hidden gem, because they have so many cool programs. One of them you see here on the bottom left. It's kind of like a lantern tour at night on a full moon where they talk history. There were a lot of fascinating shipwrecks back in the day along this area of the coast, whether it's Spanish galleons sinking. There's an area known as Coin Beach, where to this day you have people going on with Geiger counters looking for lost treasures, because not all of it's been claimed, and people find that they're still finding really valuable items there. There's a guy down in Fenwick Island, Dale Clifton. He has a Discover Sea Shipwreck Museum. You go talk to him, he'll boggle your mind. You're like, wait a minute, there's no way this is happening right off our coastline. And again, another fantastic storyteller. But you can go do it yourself, and work going to this is run by the Delaware Seashore State Park. If you go to their website, or you can go to visit southerndelaware.com and connect there and see what type of programs, when these tours are happening. They're a lot of fun. Up on the upper right, you see a drill called the beaches and buoys, I think is what it's called, and it's a Lyle gun where they demonstrate how they used to rescue people on distressed ships. How before the Coast Guard there was life-saving stations, and that's what this has brought back to life. And they talk about how they did that. It's a lot of fun for kids who come and just, they have a gift shop there. But I would recommend you to look at some of the programs there as well.
Are those demonstrations all the time, Scott, or are they?
They're scheduled. They're not all the time, but especially this time of year, they're scheduled more. But I think it's either, I think it's called the Breaches and Buoys demonstration is what they call it, and if, they have it all listed on their website.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they just do all kind of, and this is just a sample. They do others too. They do crabbing. They do crabbing classes. They do surf fishing clinics. They do all kinds of things. So as you cross, again, what I like to refer to as our Golden Gate Bridge, the Indian River Inlet Bridge, it's kind of like a threshold into Southern Delaware's quiet resorts, Bethany, Fenwick, Bethany Beach, South Bethany, Fenwick Island, Millville, Ocean View, all those towns kind of clustered, just south of the bridge. And they're called the quiet resorts because, as the name implies, they're a little bit more quiet than destinations like Rehoboth Beach or Dewey Beach, mainly because they're a little less commercial. Still plenty of commercial outlets, but just a little less commercial. They still have a boardwalk, just not quite as large as Rehoboth. It's almost like it's the best way for me to describe this area. It's kind of like a family retreat coming down. It's like what you hear about people doing on the Outer Banks, where they come down to, maybe multiple families have a house, or there's a lot of house rentals going on. Although there are two, there's one really nice hotel that's fairly new right on the boardwalk called the Bethany Beach Ocean Suites, which is a Marriott property. It's got fantastic views of the water. There's a great restaurant where you can get seated with the scenery. So there's a lot of great accommodations to stay. But yeah, it's a great place to explore. Very resorty, and you get again, getting back to what Kevin was talking about, just that kind of that feel. It's like, yeah, I'm definitely on vacation now. It's all around me. We're going to go miniature golfing. We're going to walk. We're going to go to our favorite food spot, and then we're just going to kind of take it easy. And that's what people do there. But beyond that, there are plenty of things to do by interest. Some of it's on this slide, not all of it, but some of it. But some of the things I want to talk about, again, some of the great paddling adventures you see up to the left. That's from our inland bays, upper right. This happens to be one of the birding weekends that took place. Where for me, it's like, anything that gets me out in the water, I'm not the best birder, but hey, I just want to be out there, looking at this. I want to go see a full moon via kayak, so there's places like Coastal Kayak and other outfitters. There's a place just inland there called James Farm, which a lot of people don't know about it by name, but if you look up James Farm, it's got some of the best hiking where you can go and you're like, where am I? And all of a sudden you end up in this oasis on the Indian River Bay. And it's just like, wow, you feel like you're on a deserted island. And, oh, by the way, there's Eco Bay kayak outfitters there where you can get a kayak and go for a kayak ride. And it's just, again, one of the many, many special spots that you can find back there. So a lot of cool water access. Bottom left is one of our newer attractions in Southern Delaware. We have a public botanic gardens now. The Delaware Botanic Gardens just opened up last year. it was set to open up St. Patrick's Day, but we all know what happened around March this year. So now it is actually reopening as we speak. It's opening up today, actually, for members, and it will be open to the public again, I think, in another several weeks. So something to put on your radar if you like, just getting lost in a public garden. It's beautiful. It's in the town of Dagsboro, which is, proximal to the quiet resorts there.
Sure.
It's a collection of gardens, native gardens, beautiful spot. It's on Pepper Creek, so you get a little bit of water going on back there too. On the upper right-hand side of the slide is one of our premier, I should say, entertainment outlets, the Freeman Stage at Bayside. It's an outdoor venue, which, by the way, they have a COVID schedule going on right now. They've revamped it where they have, distant tables and where you can sit, but it is, they have through the years have gotten some just, national, international acts, some, full spectrum of performers, whether it's children's programs, first date ballet. I mean, you name it. A lot of these acts have hit the Freeman Stage. So it's a great entertainment. They check out their schedule if you enjoy outdoor concerts, performances, and it's just a great way to spend the night under the stars. And that's in West Fenwick Island, just off Route 54 when you're navigating your way around. So it's not far off from Fenwick Island and Bethany Beach. On the bottom right, go ahead. Sorry.
Scott, are there kayak tours available in the evening? So you made me kind of think through this. I think there's a comet this week as well. I think
I've heard, early morning you'd be on the lookout. I actually saw a rocket launch yesterday morning. I was touring a farm in Frankfurt, and I'm like, how did you guys work in a rocket launch too with your tour? This is great. That happened yesterday morning, and it had us talking about that comet. That's why I brought up the story yesterday. So I'm not sure of the timing of it though. I don't know if it's early morning or late at night. I don't know what the latest is on it, what you've heard.
I don't know. Well, I'll try to find some information and put that on with this. But that would be kind of cool to see it from there too, to have a lot less light around you to be able to see it clear.
Oh yeah. Definitely. If you go to what you see on the slide here, visit southerndelaware.com.
Yeah.
If you go to outdoor adventures, if you go to paddling adventures, it's a great resource page it lists a lot of our providers and their go-to. So you can kind of look at all the tours based upon timing, your interests, and all that. And I mentioned that the Paddle Coastal Delaware site too for access points. But if you're like me, you don't want to lug around your own stuff or worry about wrecks. So, I mean, just make it easy and reach out to one of these providers. And there's, and it's not just kayaking and stand-up paddle too. It's all types of whatever, floats your boat to get on the water to, they're even doing sailing. I think places like Coastal Kayak, they're doing like sunfish sailing and things like that. So you can even try a little bit of that, like in those twilight hours or when it gets a little cooler, So a lot of great access there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, keep that in mind. So thanks for asking. On the bottom right is kind of this is a little Victorian theater. And it's in the town of Millville. It's called the Dickens Parlor Theater, and groups love this. I mean, in Buster, so this is cool because it's the guy started it. His name's Rich Block. He's a famous magician who relocated, came back and set up his own venue in Millville, Delaware, which is just to the west of Bethany Beach, not far from Ocean View and all that. And you pass it on Route 26. It's very nondescript, but you see the town. But in the back is this. You don't know it from the outside, but you go in. It's just this great theater, and they have these incredible magic acts scheduled there. And like many of our venues, they're obviously being CDC compliant with their capacity and reservations now, but they are open. And all these places. So, but I just encourage you, if you're looking to do something a little different, depending on your audience, if you're traveling, with kids or whatever, there, it's something different, very memorable, when you go in there, and it's just a lot of fun. So I guess you can just kind of sample these things with your tried and true things that you're going to do, and that's why you're coming down, right? You want to do certain things, but sprinkle in some of these other maybe entertainment outlets too. But a lot of cool spots. So, they're the Bethany Beach, Fenwick Island, the Chamber of Commerce. I mentioned the bike tour they produce every April. They are doing they're doing a really cool festival in January now, which you're thinking, wow, January, you don't associate January with the quiet resorts, but they do a fire and ice festival with these wild ice sculptures and ice skating and just this winter festival feel. Just as you're kind of getting over your New Year's hangover, but starting out January, and it's just a lot of fun. It takes place every January, starting in downtown Bethany. So that's one of the fun events too to do down there. Before I go to Georgetown, any other questions on something I wasn't quite clear on with the quiet resorts in mind? Again, these are all samples. I don't pretend there's more obviously, but these are just some samples I'd like to sprinkle at you.
I think this is very good. I did not realize that the garden is open. I had heard about it, but I'm glad to hear it's open. We'll definitely check that out. And
and like I said, I mean, this might be a good option. Like again, this is a shameless plug or plug, but I mean, technically after today, you could maybe go there and become a seasonal member or whatever and get access, because I know today is, but it's a neat spot to kind of get lost and walk around. And I guess to me, and people ask me, how would you describe it? And because I've been there quite frequently since it opened last year, and it's like a Claude Monet painting come to life, especially in the springtime and early summer.
I bet. Yeah, I'm excited to see it. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this gives us a good snapshot of the area as well. So this is perfect.
Great. And that's in Dagsboro. But if you look at Delaware, delawaregardens.org is their website, Kevin, if you want to get more details about them.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. So moving into the county seat, Georgetown, Delaware. Right in the middle of Sussex County, 16 miles from anywhere, as the saying goes. That's where our offices are, is in Georgetown. So they like to keep us 16 miles from anywhere in the county. It's easy for your mileage chart, right? So if you're not clocking your mileage, like, oh, okay, I was around 32 miles.
Perfect.
But it's not in business anymore. But when 16 Mile Brewery came out, that's how they got their name, because they were located in Georgetown. It was 16 miles from anywhere. So Georgetown is the site. I think one of the most famous things that takes place in Georgetown is the election year event, and don't think that they'll have it, or if they'll probably have an abbreviated form of it this year. But Return Day. Are you all familiar with Return Day?
I am, but please take us through it, just because it's such a great idea. This is one of my favorite things about Delaware.
Yeah, again, and this is not just a Sussex County. This is a Delaware thing, because you certainly get that when you visit Return Day. I think Return Day is really cool because it's the only one that really exists that we're aware of in our nation, and it has roots back to colonial times, before we could get newspapers at our doorsteps and all that, where people would go to vote. But to get the results and to know who won the election, you'd have to go to the town square and hear the crier come out and verbally give the results. And that's part of the festivities that take place during Return Day. But I think beyond that, and all the mechanics of it and the celebrations and the burying the hat, I think it's so important now. It becomes more important with every election cycle, because election cycles are so brutal now. The way they're polarizing the nation, it's disheartening to all of us. I mean, especially with this year and all the movement and the positive, the craziness and the movements we're seeing and the cultural shifts that we're doing. I think that more than ever, we need events like Return Day, because it really kind of, it's like, again, we hear it with COVID too, but we are in this together. So part of what Return Day does is they take those who have ran against each other, whether it's for state seats, local seats, the winner and the loser of that election, I mean, they're sitting in the same carriage together, in this parade. It's like, okay, the election's over. It's time to bury the hatchet. We got to go to work now. We got to work together and do what's best and I think it kind of, embodies that. It's a big celebration of, oh, we're so glad the election's over. We're sick of seeing all these ads and whatever it may be. But let's celebrate moving forward with those who've been elected now. There's all kinds of, and it goes on and on all night, and from the governor on down, and everybody attends. So it's a big Delaware thing, and it takes place on the Circle. And the Georgetown Circle, technically it's a square, but I think it's pretty cool because when you go there, to me it resembles like a movie set. I always said, like, if Sussex County was like a theme park, say like a Magic Kingdom, whatever, this would kind of be like our town square. It's back a few years ago when they were doing the Back to the Future anniversary celebrations of the movie Back to the Future. Georgetown took advantage, and we did a reenactment of the clock tower being hit by lightning because it kind of looks like Mill Valley, whatever the town. So Georgetown goes, we're going to do this ordinance. We're going to become Mill Valley for a day. The mayor was there and everything else. And by the way, we had all these DeLorean clubs come out and park on that. So it's like you're walking through this movie set and all this, but it's the colonial architecture. It's very reminiscent of Williamsburg, Virginia. If any of you are fans of Williamsburg, Virginia, I think it's the family court there. It looks like the governor's house in Williamsburg. So it's all that Roman architecture. So it's really neat. It's neat to walk around there. And on the right-hand side of the slide, there's the Brick Hotel, which is a great place to stay. They took it back to its true roots. It was a Union hotel back in the Civil War. It was one of the rare places where Union troops would stay because, again, there was a lot of Southern sympathizers, in Southern Delaware, and it was certainly where worlds were colliding there, and so they brought this structure back to its true form as an inn. And there's a restaurant called the Counting House Restaurant, which is it's a really nice destination there. And of course, during Return Day, it is the place to be. It gets booked out very well in advance. But there's other places to stay too. Now there's more hotels in Georgetown. There's a lot of a True by Hilton just opened up out by Del Tech and College, right off 113. There's a Microtel Suite. So Georgetown's really becoming more of a medical hub now too. So there's more business travelers coming in, more medical travel. Sun Behavioral Health just opened up not too long ago. So there's networks there. So there's also a very heavy Hispanic influence in Georgetown, which to me, one thing I like is there's a lot of great authentic Hispanic restaurants when you go to places like Ray Street. Every year they have a festival Hispano, which takes place where they block off some streets, and it's really neat. It's very popular. People walk around. So again, it'll be interesting. Everyone's adapting to these festivals from this COVID era now until we get past it. So for those events that aren't being canceled, they're working on ways, how can we space it out, in the open and outdoors, or but there are, like I said, there are a lot of festivals that historically always happen, especially in the fall. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Two questions on this one. So 16 Mile, didn't somebody else move into that spot? Was that sold?
Yes, it was Revelation Brewery.
That's right.
Which is great because they're going to keep it a brewery. And they actually have a tent out there now. They're I don't think they're officially open, but they're working on a slow opening. They had that Rehoboth location, which is the one on the bike trail that I had mentioned earlier. But yeah, I think we were all glad to see that it's staying a brewery and not something else, or being converted, into something else that's really wouldn't be an attraction.
Right.
And
the other question
just south of town there on South Bedford Street.
Okay. The other question I had was on return day, don't they actually bury a hatchet too? Did I hear that?
They do bury a hatchet.
Okay.
The mayors do that, and there's a hatchet. So that's part that's so yeah, they bury a hatchet. There's an ox roast. There's all these things. So it's all part of the pageantry that is return day.
We could probably teach something to the rest of the country
Well,
from.
yeah, and we would get writers, national beat writers, whether it was from Atlanta or other places. They would, we would sell them. Where it's like, yeah, you should come up and check out Return Day. So that really piqued their interest because of the reasons we're describing. It's like, wow, that really happens.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
that's cool.
it's very unique, and I think it's really cool that Delaware it is a Delaware thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we could so I don't think we can really showcase that enough, and
Absolutely.
again, something that we might take for granted as Delawareans, but it really is unique. It doesn't really happen anywhere else.
Right.
I put a golf slide in here too, because I have a tendency to skip over a lot of the great public golf courses here, and there is one outside of Georgetown called Mulligan's Point. It was formerly known as Sussex Pines, but they've put in a lot of cool upgrades over the last 2 years under new ownership. It's Mulligan's Point. But there's, again, you can go to our website and look up all the great golf and public courses, but they really are very bucolic and just great scenery. The places like Baywood Greens, they call it the Augusta of the North, just because of the landscaping. You're like, wow, you're just taken aback, but you're like, this is crazy landscaping going on. And so there's, depending on where you are, Kevin, I don't know if you're a golfer, I'll pick on you because I know you're coming to Bethany, but you can go like to places like Bayside, which is a Nicholas course, Bear Trap. I mean, they're right around the corner. And again, so we are a tremendous golf destination if that's something that
they are beautiful courses. Yeah, I played both of those, and they're really amazing. You don't really, unless you know about them, you kind of don't really think about it because it's so sort of vacation oriented. But to have that flexibility again that Delaware does really throughout the state.
Yeah.
That there's so much to do, but to have that level of golf close to a vacation spot, I think is pretty special as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely don't, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the just the plethora of public golf courses, the offerings here. So now we're going to kind of circle back up to the north, kind of still on the eastern side of the county, even though Georgetown's right in the middle, as I said, but if you head northeast of Georgetown, it takes you up to Milton. I always said if Sussex County were like the US, and Milton would kind of be like our Portland, Oregon, because their mantra is keep Milton weird. They like it weird in Milton. And that's kind of neat. They embrace that. And there's some things I don't see Liz on the call now, but I know earlier she was talking about places like the Milton Theater, which I don't think I have a photo of on the slide, but it's something that was dormant for a while and they brought it back to life. It's this wonderful kind of just this, Main Street theater. There's restaurants, again, very walkable. I think one of the most famous things about Milton now is it's aside from its shipbuilding heritage and I guess buttons and beans, and it was a holly making capital for a long time. It was like the holly capital. They would make holly wreaths in Milton, and they still embrace it to say they have a holly festival there in the winter holidays. So something, but more contemporary times now, in the last 10 years at least, it's really become known as the home of the Dogfish Head Brewery, which has taken the craft beer industry by storm, especially now that they've merged with Boston Beer. So it's like they say, it's a craft beer marriage made in heaven, because Sam Adams has the ale side, Sam Adams has the lager side, Dogfish has the ale side, but there's so many people that make pilgrimages now to the Dogfish Brewery, and it takes them to Milton. Of course, they have a Rehoboth Brew and Eats location. They have an inn in Lewes, where you can stay and travel. So they've become really part of the scene here in Southern Delaware. through all their tremendous loyal following of people wanting to tour. So you can go to their brewery in Milton, and their parking lot's full every day with tours. And that's what one of their tours is in the upper right hand side of the slide here. And it's a great tour. We have other breweries that give tours, but again, there's a lot of people that know they know Dogfish more than they know Delaware. They're like, oh wow, we're a dog. Oh, but we're also in Delaware. But they have such a name recognition now. Any of us, we all travel and go around. You can see Dogfish on more and more menus and far off spots. The more we travel, you see Dogfish. You can be on the Amtrak. You're going to be able to get a dog. So they're doing more, partnerships with downtown Milton now to kind of develop tours and things like that. And I mentioned the architecture earlier in the call, but it's a really fun place to walk around. And we're getting some really good restaurants in there now too. So it's not only, it certainly comes to light. It pops at night now. There's Irish Eyes, which is a neat spot there. And again, as a paddling destination, and I just did this a few weeks ago, but there's a really great spot. It's on that map, on that Paddle Coastal Delaware map, where you can drive into and park by downtown Memorial Park, just downtown there. And then whether you have your own or there's a renting option too, with Quest kayaks there. You can launch right there in downtown Milton and go eastward on the Broadkill River towards Lewes. There's a McCabe Preserve Park, which is just great wildlife. It's safe. It's just this mellow paddle you can take. It's again one of our many scenic paddles, but that's a really good point to do. And then you can come back and then enjoy a cocktail or a beer or whatever along with a meal, to kind of recharge before you go. So it's a good kind of it's a great place to do that. I'm sorry, the other thing, you mentioned the tours earlier too, Kevin. A really popular tour done with Dogfish Head and Quest Kayak is a tour called the Pints and Paddles Tour, where you meet them on the Broadkill and you paddle one way. So you're paddling down the Broadway, and they'll pick you, they'll take you in a van back to your car or whatever, but you end up at the Dogfish Head Brewery and you do the tour after you paddle. So it's a good kind of thing. Yeah. But it's all packaged together and they make it easy for you.
Good. Okay. So you earn the beer at the end that way.
You earn your beer at the end. You definitely earn your beer. So it's fun. On the bottom left is a really cool attraction that, again, people aren't quite aware of, but we have a lavender farm here called Lavender Fields, which actually has a collection of businesses on it. But they have one side of it is English lavender, the other side's French lavender. And it's like, one of those Zen spots where you can kind of go walk around, smell, and just, they have a gift shop. You can purchase things or just kind of get lost back there, kind of reconnect with yourself or with people you're with. And it's just, again, one of those many, it's just a great spot to exhale where you can go and so take in the lavender. So, and that's in the town of Cool Spring, which is just to the south of Milton. I don't have much longer to go. I don't know how we're doing on time, or I'm fine. But are there any questions, or is there anything you wanted to interject?
I think we're good. It's interesting, little kind of sidebar to the holly. I had forgotten. At some point, I had learned that at one point in time, holly was the #1 export out of Delaware.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. You'll find if you're hiking. You'll find on a lot of the trails, you'll find a holly bush growing kind of on its own out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was a very big agricultural component to our economy. So it's interesting kind of historical piece to that too.
Yeah. And a lot of people are like, wow, I didn't realize Milton was the holly capital of the world, but it was.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, but this is great. So keep on keeping on. Absolutely.
So I want to go west now.
Okay.
And again, this is, Western Sussex County. From a tourism perspective, I always like to refer to it as kind of like Nanticoke River country. This is kind of like our frontier area, like where you can go really, really explore wildlife and some of, again, some of the fascinating stories. Because again, you get into kind of Chesapeake culture here. Again, you're kind of, you're kind of leaving the Atlantic Ocean, watershed, and then you're kind of getting into the Chesapeake Bay watershed area with the Nanticoke River and the tributary, being a tributary of the Chesapeake Bay. And by the way, probably being the most cleanest and pristine one. I mean, there's some really, again, I don't want to keep harping on it, but I can't stress enough how many cool paddling trips there are along this region here. You can go into places like Trapp Pond State Park, which is just outside of the town of Laurel. That has, they have bald cypress trees. You feel like you're down, in swamplands but it's just, the scenery is great. They have full moon paddles. You feel like you're on another planet. And some great hiking there, nature programs and things like that. A lot of really cool camping if you're into camping along that park. And then going up to Laurel, there's a waterway. There's Broad Creek, which is a tributary of the Nanticoke River. It is such a scenic paddle where you can just go in and spend a half a day checking off at least a dozen to 15 species of wildlife. You probably might only pass like one bass fisherman. You head out to a place called Phillips Landing, which is where Broad Creek meets the Nanticoke River. And it's in the middle of the slide, you'll see a monument there. It's where Captain John Smith extended his travels during his early exploration of the Chesapeake Bay area, and that's kind of where he kind of met and encountered the Nanticoke Indians and indigenous people of the area. And it's part of our story here in Southern Delaware. The town of Bethel is another shipbuilding town. It's a town that the National Geographic magazine once described as a Christmas tree toy village come to life, which I think is kind of neat, because you get there and you just kind of see it, and it is like a village, and you walk around and sometimes you don't see anybody. It's like, but it's kind of neat. You walk around, there's like this fantastic scenery, and there's like one store, but it's just and when you're going there, I think an attraction that I always recommend is to travel, if you're traveling in your car, which most people do in this region. If you're coming from Laurel and you're traveling towards Seaford, you'll pass Bethel and you'll get all that. But go take the Woodland Ferry, which is what you see in the upper right-hand part of this slide. Very short trip. It's a cable run ferry, but it's really neat. It's free. DelDOT, the Department of Transportation, runs it. And it is running now. Sometimes they post it when it's not running for repair, but to me, it's just the way to get around versus going on Route 13. If you're traveling, north, you get on the ferry and like, whether I've eaten a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the Woodland Ferry as I'm sitting like, I'm looking there, like, but it's like what I said about Lavender Fields. It's like an exhale spot. You're like, whoo, this is wow. A lot of it's timeless. You look around and then you get to Woodland, and then that's just south of Seaford. And you loop up, and of course Seaford, which I'm getting ready to advance to now. It was its popularity, back in the 60s, 70s. It was the nylon capital of the world, via courtesy of the DuPont Corporation, and that was the lifeblood of the town. It brought in a lot of people. Well, that it's no longer. So the town still is going through transformations, and kind of like what I said about Lewes is they're coming up with new ways and attractions and things to really kind of develop their waterfront now, getting back to their roots. They have an oyster house project going on. They're looking at some more waterfront developments, because they do have a wonderful waterfront with the Nanticoke River there that comes up. And they have a great historic downtown that tells a story. There's the museum, the Seafood Museum, which is really it's a high caliber museum that I would recommend to anybody going, wanting to find out more about the history of the area, run by some great people.
Very cool.
There's a Harriet Tubman Trail, one of the trails there. There's that goes to downtown Seaford, and it's just there's some really good stories there. There's the float in at the bottom right. That's a part of the Nanticoke River Fest that happens every year, every July, which I believe I haven't heard the status. I think it's postponed until last year because we're in July now, but it's something that it's a big draw to celebrate the river. And they have a contest on it, like kayaking races and things like that. But the float-ins are a big event where people just hang out and float in on inner tubes and all that, and it's just taking in
Nice.
the nature of the area. But up on the left-hand side is the Governor Ross Mansion, which takes in kind of the Italian architecture, and again, it's another historic attraction there when you visit Seaford. But it's got a neat downtown, and again, there's again, some good places to go eat when you're walking around there. And
Okay.
but again, Nanticoke River Country, it's a great place to kind of explore, and again, a lot of hidden gems. Again, for if you really want to get serious about your exploration, say if you're staying at the beach and you want to find a new kayak adventure, or hiking or even biking adventure, they're all out there too. And we're trying to kind of connect them more with what we have on our website, and again, ideas there. So anything else before I move on? I'm almost done.
Okay. I don't think so. I think we're good.
The town of Bridgeville is proximal, again, another one of our western towns in Sussex County. They're famous for two things: apple and scrapple, hence the Apple Scrapple Festival every October, which is this is a photo of. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we're looking at 2021 now, next October for the next one. But it's not all that they have, but again, it's neat to be famous for things, and that's something that, again, and it plays into part of our culinary coast too, because people they're fascinated. There's this ongoing battle between Pennsylvania and Delaware with who created scrapple, and it's like, well, Pennsylvania maybe created it, but Delaware made it famous, and now we have all these breweries that are infusing scrapple with beer and this. But the apples too, and there's some great markets, like there's places like T.S. Smith and Sons where we can go with these. I mean, just the produce and being able to tour these markets and farms. It's just some really great places to get lost in. And again, it's proximal to Route 13 if you're traveling from the north. You go there, and again, you'll pass it. And again, does anyone know what their famous slogan is in Bridgeville? You see the sign, and people always notice the sign. If you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes. That's a great sign.
So it's really neat.
That's a great sign.
And then heading up to the northern cusp of Sussex County, where it meets Kent County in Delaware, is Milford. And Milford, again, another one, a town like Milton that's been really going, experiencing a renaissance over the last decade or so. Most recently, with the new Bay Health Hospital, it's bringing in a lot of newcomers to the area. More employment opportunities. But the downtown has this burgeoning art scene going on too. There's the Miss Billion Art League. There's the River Walk that Milford has, where it's kind of just a fun place to walk around. Going there's great places to go have coffee, dessert, have any meal for that matter, and walk around and kind of get lost in. To the bottom of the left is the Vineyard shipyard, which is something that I know the city and other partners are working on further developing into kind of a museum and to help tell the story there as part of the River Walk. But the Vineyard shipyard talks about, you can see where a lot of ships were made, and they did a lot of luxury yachts back in the day. They've restored a lot of boats, so it's kind of a neat spot to explore there. Abbott's Mill in the upper left is a great nature preserve area there, where they have tremendous trails to walk around and get lost in, and just again, great outlet for nature. They have some really cool programs too, whether it's stargazing. Sometimes they have movies at night. There's a downtown art gallery on the bottom right, which you see in downtown Milford. Up on the right hand side, You get out towards Slaughter Beachway, which is part of the Bayshore Byway, Delaware's Bayshore Byway, as well as Milford, and it's really become being part of the Atlantic Flyway, a big birding destination, mainly because of its horseshoe crab population. I think I want to say it's the most. I mean, are you all familiar with the horseshoe crab connection at all? You probably read about it or experienced yourself. Anyway, it's Delaware Bay and in the southern part of Japan is the hotbed for horseshoe crabs, and that species, it's prehistoric. Technically, it's a spider, but it's so important because, again, it's what rare birds feast on. They feast on horseshoe crab eggs, and when they have their spawning every spring in April and May, it brings in all these birders from all over to come see, with birding weekends that we see up there. And there places like the DuPont Nature Center are great ways to experience that from observation decks. Towns like Slaughter Beach, Pickering Beach, and you go along the Bayshore area. There's some really neat attractions. And again, the birding, you have Prime Hook Wildlife Refuge, of course, Bombay, when you get up into Kent County, and that byway, they're really, I think you see more and more signs on it now. It's really being promoted more and more as another way, just, take this scenic tour, get lost, especially now when we're really trying to get back to nature more and more and trying to see, just again, distance ourselves.
Yeah.
But so there's that, to me, there's just, you see more and more of that going on, and that's a good thing to get people out there and look at those Bayshore towns as well, not just the ocean and the Atlantic towns. So Milford, there's a really cool Milford kind of Miss Billion River connection going on with Milford and Slaughter Beach. So I think that's it for my slides, Kevin and Herbert. So, I mean, I'm all ears, questions, thoughts, or whatever, again, I don't pretend to cover everything, but again, I'm just sprinkling here. So please fire away. I'm happy, again, to help answer anything.
Scott, that was excellent. I know Liz wanted to stay on. She felt bad. She lost her entire internet connection.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Right. So she has no Comcast right now. So hopefully she's back at some point in the near future, but she wanted to be able to stay on. So I'm sure she'll want us to watch this. This will obviously be recorded, and it has been recorded. And we'll share this out to our network too. But this has been awesome. So I really appreciate it. And I know it looks like Herbert had questions. So
yes, thank you. That was great.
Well, I appreciate you all being, let me do this today, and thank you. And it's nice to meet you both. And happy to stay in touch. So just let me know, and appreciate it.